Today, I will deliberate on the topic global shift of power and governance. That is, perception of power in world politics and changing nature of power. So, in the topic, we find that we have to understand about what is power and what is governance and how both are changing in their perception, and we will learn that how does it affect the global situation. Now, power is both political power as well as economic power, and it also consists of social, cultural, and technological power. Now, when I deal with the subject today, we will have to also understand that the global power which is shifting is a natural phenomena, and this phenomena of shifting of the power prevails both in the context of the global power, the regional power, the national power, as well as the local power. You see, the power also affect the nature of governance. One is linked with another. Now, governance is through certain institutions like United Nations, like World Bank, like International Monetary Fund, and there are various other non-state sectors of power governance, as well as various intergovernmental organizations as well as the non-governmental organizations. Now, we will find during the course of our lecture that how the country which is more powerful is also able to affect the governance through these non-state agencies and the other intergovernmental agencies. Now, first of all, let me define what are the different nature of power. Now, the power could be hard power, the power could be soft power, the power could be also a smart power in today's context. Now, what is hard power? Hard power is basically a power which is used through the political and the economic strength. Now, the political power is again depends upon how much military power you have and how much economic power you have in the context of what is your national income, what is your per capita income. Now, we will see that military power is a bit coercive in nature. It threatens to the freedom of the people, and the economic power, as we know today, United States remain the biggest economic power, and it influences the economic activities around the world through its power of imposing economic sanctions and through various other trade and investment measures. Now, the soft power is basically through your influence based upon your ideology, your cultural values, your religious values. And the smart power, which you can understand how India is smart enough, although we are not the biggest military power, we are neither the biggest economic power, but through a mix of the hard power and the soft power, through the leadership of our Prime Minister, how we are, smartly becoming more and more powerful around the globe, as we have been seeing that India is today leading the G20, India is also leading today the SCO, the Shanghai Corporation. Global power is primary, global governance is secondary. Global power is with reference to the nation state, like United States, USSR, United Kingdom, like the global power is generally with reference to the nation state, and the global governance is normally with reference to various intergovernmental organizations like United Nations, the WTO, the IMF, the World Bank, and several other organizations nowadays dealing with the climate change and several other issues like health and others. Now, what we have seen that the Western countries has gained power through industrialization, through their influence on the market economy, and we also know through the colonialism process which was prevalent prior to the 16th century. But there has been a shift with the dismantleness of the colonialism, but the gradually when this colonialism was collapsing, the Western countries tried to influence the power through economic globalism, through setting up of various institutions which are known as the Bretton Woods institutions and IMF, World Bank, and the WTO, etc. On the one hand, when the Western countries wanted to influence the globe through their interference on the governance through these institutions, there has been a demand from the developing countries and other emerging nations, and therefore the hegemony of the West on the United Nations, on the IMF, and on the World Bank is gradually, getting day by day, more democratic, and are in the process where India, China, and various other nations are asking for more and more power in their favor through their representation in the Security Council and various other pattern of voting. So, what we basically would see that yes, there was a time when the entire power was concentrated with the West, but gradually the other nations like in the Asian countries are emerging as the power. This is true also historically, that power has never remained static, has never remained concentrated in one group. This is also evident that once upon a time there was a Roman Empire from 31 BC to AD 476. Then we have also seen that the Ottoman Empire, which was there only between 1300 to 1923. Then we have also seen that there was British Empire from 1500 to 1913, just before the World War I. And there has been shift in the power from Pax Britannicana to Pax Americana after the Second World War. So the power has been shifting. It is not constant affair, it has been gradually shifting. And the shift is still in the process. It is not that the shifting is complete. As and when there are some events, there is a change in the global power concentration. Now, the global power is basically treated as the primary power, and the global governance is a sort of secondary power, and the global power is shifting horizontally, say for example from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and also from north to south or from west to east. There is a horizontal and vertical flow of power in the nation state. However, we also find today that the institutions of governance, there is some change in the global shift of power, but sometimes the institutions has more power to influence the decision making, and those institutions sometimes they have the power which moves vertically upward. So to say that the today the Paris Agreement or the agreement in the WTO, they will act as the constitution, the rule-making body, which are more powerful than even the nation. So that thing we will have to keep in mind, that sometimes the IGOs and the NGOs, they influences higher power than even of the state. Then we also shift in the power, say in the context of various war which have taken places, and the kind of shift has taken places through various treaties. Now we know about the Westphalia Treaty, when there was conflict between the power of Spain and the Duchess, and that Westphalia Treaty of 1648. And then there was Glorious Revolution in 1688, then French Revolution in 1789 to 1799, then American War of Independence between 1775 to 1783. And all these events prove that always there has been shift in the power. The power has never concentrated in one hand or in one group. And then when there was further conflict of power in the nations, say between Japan and the West, or say between the Germany and the other countries in the Europe, then we know that the First World War between 1914 to 1918 took place, and then World War II between 1939 to 1945 took place. If we look into the history, we have seen that there has been a continuous shift in the global power. And what I would like to also say something from the spiritual or the religious concept, as we know that the power comes not only from the the economic power or the military power, it also comes from the cultural power. So what does it basically mean? So it means the kind of philosophy, the kind of ideals which you follow, because the entire world, there are two ways of looking at the world. One is you look the whole world as the market. The other concept is that you look at the world as a family. So our Indian philosophy always goes with the philosophy of looking at the world as a family, which says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now this idea is based on a balanced approach, and this balanced approach is, as you know, the nature has given us different kind of virtues. Those virtues are like, as mentioned in our epics, is about the sattvic, the rajasic, and the tamasic. So one kind of action and the thoughts are that while we look for our own interest, we also look for the interest of the others. We are not a selfish human being. This is what our epic says. So that is the idea, that whatever decision we take, whether for our economic growth or for any other social work, we have to be balanced, and we must take decisions which is good for the entire human being. So basically what I would like to say, that today we have seen in the immediate past that the Western countries broadly, they were moving ahead with the idea of exploitation of raw material and the labor resources from the rest of the world. Whether it was Africa or it was Asia, the Western countries, through their policy of colonialism and otherwise also through exploitation, and they have influenced their power to work in their solo interest. But today's world is not accepting that, and this divide in the power has also resulted in the divisibility or the inequality in the society. So today what we see, that America is the biggest the military power. So basically this power is also comes from the nuclear power, the country who has got maximum number of missiles and the atom bomb. But you see, therefore, the resources, we have the limited resources, and if we spend more resources on building this military power or the defense devices, so what is happening today, that more than $2 trillion is spent only in making the defense equipment. Like, for example, United States is spending $778 billion. China is spending $252 billion. India has limited resources, so we are spending $72.9 billion. Russia is spending $61.7 billion. UK is spending $59.2 billion. Now, on the one hand, we are spending so much on building the military equipment, but on the other hand, there are people who are dying of hunger, dying and are suffering on different housing and other problems in the rest of the world, say for Africa, Latin America or Asia. So what we need is a balancing out this hunger of power. So the way the world has moved and there has been shift in the political power, we also find there has been shift in the economic power. There was a time, say in 1500, when China used to be the biggest economic power. China used to control 29% of the global economy, and India was controlling 22.4% of the global economy. Today, this kind of power is with United States, which is controlling more than 20% of the global economy. But just 500 years before, it was not US, because US was not even born. So that time China was the biggest power. But then the power kept shifting. So after China, then India became the super economic power in the year 1700, when India used to contribute more than 25% of the global economy. The second was China, the third was France, the fourth was Japan, and the fifth was Italy. So US and UK both were not the economic power till 1700. But then we know that with the colonialization, so United Kingdom started gaining power after that. But there was a limit to the power of the United Kingdom also. And then we find that in 1890, United States became the biggest power. China number 2, India number 3. So this I am telling you from the point of view of the purchasing power parity. So this is how the power has been shifting over the period, and in 1930 itself we find that United States continued to be number 1, China number 2, Germany number 4, United Kingdom number 4th, and India 5th. And today again we find that this position continues, but from the purchasing power point of view. So therefore there is a need that whether we consider purchasing power parity as one of the yardstick of considering who is more powerful. If we take the purchasing power parity of the rupee, because rupee has more power while purchasing goods as compared to the dollar, so therefore, although India's GDP in terms of the nominal value is $3 trillion, but when we take the purchasing power, it is more than $10 trillion. So that way India becomes the third largest economy. So broadly what we have been seeing that till the Second World War, what we find that US was the major economic power. And simultaneously, there was also an emerging power like Russia, Soviet Russia. But till the Second World War or till say early 90s, both US and Russia remained more powerful. So there was a bipolar world till 1990. Before the First World War, the power was with UK. Then with this First World War, the power shifted from UK to United States, and United States could not remain the sole power. It was a power of capitalism, which was with United States, and then there was a power of communism, which was with the Soviet Russia. But we know after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of Soviet Union, then in 1990, again the power of the Soviet Union or the communism fell down, and United States became the unipolar and the only powerful country, and therefore 1990 we find that the globalization or the market economy was influenced through Washington Consensus of the United States. And most of the countries, they started believing in the market economy, and they were forced to do it blindly. The results are not very good, because even in India, what we see that from 1990, when we changed our economic policy and we moved towards the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, we have over the period grown, but then the growth has not been that much equitable. So there is a time to look back whether globalization per se is good for all the countries equally. So the data say that one size fits all does not apply good. The principles that the rising tides lifts all boats does not hold good. So India has to look back, and you know that in 2014, when the present government under the leadership of Narendra Modi has come, so we find there has been some correction, there has been more and more safety net to see that the benefit of the growth reaches to the masses, people living in the rural areas, and we have thought of the principles of inclusive growth, the financial inclusion. So what I was trying to say, that the power has shifted from UK to United States to Soviet Russia. Again, then in 1990, the power got concentrated with United States, because that was a unipolar world. But then when we found that no, with the unipolar world also, United States through globalization, when China was included as a member of the WTO in 2001, and the other countries also started becoming more and more powerful. So we find that there has been shift in power from United States to European Union, to Japan, to India, to China, to Brazil. And with this, there has been change in the governance also. So United States alone cannot say that yes, they will control the IMF, they will control the World Bank, because if you keep on controlling the World Bank and the IMF, so simultaneously what has been done, that a BRICS has been created. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they have come together. They have formed their own new bank, the BRICS Bank. And similarly, China has also started another bank, which is AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank of the world. So wherein many other countries have joined. So similarly, there has been several regional blocks, like the ASEAN, and several other blocks are coming up. So it is not the hegemony of United States alone. So more and more different countries are coming as with the shift in the power. And today we find that this one way of globalization has also led into several problems. And we find that in 2008-9, United States suffered from the economic crisis, which is also, the price crisis which came from the, the bubble in the property market. And with that, in November 2009, first time the G20 formation was done. So there was a shift from the policy decision-making block of group of 7 to group of 8, like by including Russia. But finally, now G7 or the G8 group is not holding the entire power. The power has shifted from G7 or G8 to G20. So basically, what we find that in the prehistoric period, say, we have seen that there was Mahabharata, Ramayana, there was a shift in power. Then we have seen that there was shift in power through various kinds of war, and the empires have also changed. There is rise and fall of the nations through different wars. So Ottoman Square, or the Roman Empire, or the British Empire, they all shifted. And then we saw that with the First World War and the Second World War, the Pax American period was changed to Pax Americana, and then the Cold War era. So sometime it was a unipolar world, sometime it was a bipolar world, but then the shift kept on taking place. So now what we see is a multipolar world, where different groups of country, different power centers are there, which include India, China, Brazil, Russia, and several others.